Well, good afternoon, and thank you all very much for coming. Looks like we have a great turnout from Ball Office Products. Looks a lot different than last time I was here. Just a few short months ago, we had a lot of construction going on and just a vision, Melissa, for how this was going to look, and it's extraordinary. You obviously got a lot of hard-working entrepreneurs that have decided to join you and put the place together. So we're delighted to be back at Ball Office Products and our host, Melissa Ball, and Mike Bucci, who I'll introduce here in just a minute. But thank you all very much for coming. Obviously, we're in the home stretch now of a presidential campaign, and happen to be governor of a state that's going to be important in the turnout, as well as a determining factor in who's the next president of the United States. And I'm here because for the last 2.5 years, we have made the laser focus of our administration creating jobs, promoting entrepreneurship, and giving people more opportunity to have access to the American dream. That's been the heart and soul of our administration. And as a result of that, a couple of good things have happened with surplus and job creation. On the other hand, we've had constant opposition in so many fronts from Washington, D.C. that makes it harder for entrepreneurs like Melissa and Mike and thousands of others like them in order to start and grow and expand a business here in Virginia. And it's obvious why. The president was here just a couple of weeks ago. Always glad to have the president in Virginia. But when he was here, he said in Roanoke that if you have a successful business, you didn't build that. It was essentially the government that really created the opportunity for that to happen. He also said, business, private sector, you all are doing just fine. I mean, these two comments together reflect a president and an administration that's just out of touch, out of ideas, and as far as I'm concerned, out of time to prove that they can create restore the American dream in Virginia. So I'm here to say we need a new president. I thought those remarks of the president here in Roanoke just show how misplaced the priorities are of this administration. Last 2.5, 3 years, when the unemployment rate has remained over 8% for 41 consecutive months, when we've been drowning in the greatest amount of national debt in the history of the United States of America, and this president's contributed $5.2 trillion to that national debt, when the priority has been trying to get 25 million people who are underemployed or unemployed or have given up looking for work, to try to get them back on the payrolls and taking care of their families and having the opportunity to live the American dream. This president's focused on expanding government, the greatest degree in American history with the Obamacare health care expansion, and a number of other priorities that just reflect that this president doesn't get it. This administration doesn't have the capacity or the philosophy to be able to create jobs. What have they tried? They've tried stimulus, which is nearly $1 trillion of democratic ideas about how to spend more money. That's not really contributed to long-term growth and sustainability in the American economy. And so here we are, with 3 months left, and the president saying, "Well, I just need another term. We just need a little bit more time." Well, 3 years ago he said, "If I don't get this deal done in 3 years, it's a one-term proposition." Mr. President, we're here to collect. It's going to be a one-term proposition because you're not getting it done. And that's why we're here today, really, is that the small businessman, the entrepreneur, is the heart and soul of the American economy. This president doesn't get that. And entrepreneurs in Virginia create 71% of all the new jobs. It's near 98% of all the businesses. So this president, like we've been doing in Virginia, should be looking for every possible way to reduce the tax and regulatory and litigation burden on the entrepreneur, to get them to get in business and stay in business and grow in business. That's where the growth's coming from in America. It's not by more tax revenue with higher tax rates. It's by creative entrepreneurial policies that'll promote business. And that's what Mitt Romney's campaign is all about. It's the heart and soul, the message for America is Mitt Romney's plan to grow the economy, create jobs, provide more opportunity for the American dream. That's what this election is all about. President Obama says we need more guarantees and more government. Mitt Romney said we need more jobs and more entrepreneurs and more opportunity. That's what the choice is all about. So Mitt Romney says, look, we want to get people back to work. What do we have to do? Well, we can start by getting rid of the highest corporate income tax rate in the world and cut it down to 25%. That's a good idea to get businesses to repatriate back to America. We need to take these high individual tax rates and cut them by 20%. And do that by eliminating some of the preferences and some of the exemptions, so we broaden the base and flatten the rate. That's good economic theory. Almost everybody, right and left, agree that's the right approach. He's got a national energy policy. We haven't had one of those in 3.5 years. We need to have a national energy policy that will immediately start to look at all of the God-given reserves and energy resources that we have in America, from coal to natural gas to nuclear to offshore to biofuels, and find out how can we really energize that energy industry and rely on a red, white, and blue American homegrown energy strategy. I can tell you this president, while he talks about jobs, he's done more to undermine the energy industry in Virginia than any time I've seen in my 21 years in office. Whether it's the coal and natural gas energy, withholding permits, troubling regulations, the nuclear energy industry, no place to be able to store spent rods and reprocess spent rods. These are not policies that help to grow energy. So that's the platform for Mitt Romney, and that's why he's clearly the best president at this time to get the American economy back to work. So if you don't believe me, you can believe the two people behind me, because they live this every day. They're very successful entrepreneurs. Mike Bucci is the founder and president of K&M of Virginia, a distinguished graduate of Darden School of Business. In fact, he got a couple of master's degrees from the University of Virginia. But he's an entrepreneur. He's an innovator. He's created a company that now's got a couple products that he distributes in a very efficient way to 10,000 different businesses in about 20-some countries around the world. And it all started with a simple idea that he'll probably tell you about. He's written a great book that I got to get an autographed copy of, that says, Start Living the American Dream, an entrepreneur's guide to turning your idea into your future. I think President Obama ought to read that book, and maybe he'd do a little better these next 3 months. But with that, I want to introduce to you the president and founder of K&M Virginia, Mike Bucci.
Thank you. My name is Mike Bucci. I am an inventor, entrepreneur, that's, as you all know, the sexy term for small business owner, and author of the book that Governor just highlighted, called Start Living the American Dream. I started my company, K&M of Virginia, in 2007. Now, before I jump into my thoughts on the President's comments, I think it's appropriate to let you know that I am an independent voter. I voted for both Democrats and Republicans in the past 10 years. I'll also say I did vote for you, Governor, and I'm very happy with my choice there. And I'm not just saying that because I have the honor of being here today. How I vote is I look at the person, I look at their record, I look at their positions, and then I decide which candidate is best for the role. Now, my business is rather unique in many ways. On one side of my business, I take new ideas, patents, and transform those into commercial products. I develop the products and I bring them to market. And I've been very fortunate that some of these products have allowed me enough revenue that I've been able to survive what hopefully is the worst part of the recession that we've seen in our lifetime, that started 4 years ago and continues today. On the other side of my business, I help educate inventors who have their own ideas and want to bring those to market. And while what my business does is very unique, my role, my challenges, and my commitment in building my business is like many other small business owners. The role consists of everything from marketing and selling products, making sure the operations are working correctly, to working with all the people who impact my business and making sure everyone is focused on getting the right things done. More specifically, though, it's meant many nights and weekends of work. And it's meant many times away from my 2 young children, where I did not want to be away from them. In the last week, it's meant doing some very fun and exciting things, like unloading a container of product in the 100-degree Virginia heat, and being up after midnight doing my favorite thing, accounting. So these are challenges that I face on my own, not only without the help from government, but oftentimes in face of the policies that are coming out of Washington, D.C., that actually make it harder and more costly for me to run my business. So when I heard the president say, if you have a business, you didn't build that, somebody else made it happen, I was not only insulted, but I was driven to speak out. Though the president could not be more wrong in trying to imply that government is responsible for the successes of small business, when you take a look at his policies, there's absolutely no doubt that he meant what he said on July 13th in Roanoke and has subsequently reiterated after that. President Obama's changes to our healthcare and financial industries have truly been impactful for me. Over the last 3 years, my healthcare costs for my family alone have risen thousands of dollars. And while I recognize that healthcare costs were rising prior to that, the rate has grown over the last couple of years with Obamacare coming down the pike. And the fundamental premise for me that somehow placing greater demand on an existing system would lower the cost defies all economic logic and gives me little hope that healthcare will ever get under control. On the financial services side, the passage of Dodd-Frank and the very aggressive stance that regulators have taken after the mortgage meltdown have been cutting off the supply of capital to small businesses like my own. And while my business has been profitable, I spent a year working with multiple banks to secure the funding that I needed to invest in new products and grow my business. The issue was not about my ability to repay the loan. It was all of the uncertainty driven into the financial markets by the multiple undefined requirements coming out of Washington, D.C. And with the defeat several years ago of the environmental law, cap and trade, and the union-friendly card check in Congress, I'd hoped that there would be some level of sanity on those fronts. Instead, what has occurred has been a true picture of how committed President Obama is to these policies that are truly destructive for business. What wasn't accomplished through our duly elected Congress, President Obama has tried to push through departments like the EPA and the NLRB, or quite simply changed through his signing of an executive order. Meanwhile, new regulations are consistently coming out of DC. This all starts with President Obama's continued emphasis that government needs to control business more. It is this aggressive move to increase regulations across the board that scares the daylights out of me and many other small business owners like myself. While each of us responds a little bit differently, we all fear that the next action coming out of DC will be the action that destroys the business that we've built. So while our president may believe that the government's policies are responsible for the success of business, I'm here to say that my business is surviving in spite of, not succeeding because of, the president's policies. And I, for one, wholeheartedly disagree with President Obama's attempts to imply otherwise. President Obama is the one who said, if you've got a business, you didn't build that, somebody else made it happen. And judging by his actions over the last 3 years, he meant what he said. Thank you, and with that, I'll turn it over to Melissa.
Thanks for being here today. I didn't expect us to all be together again so quickly. I got a call last week. It was a bit of a surprise. We were totally empty here. We were still finishing up construction. There was nothing in this building and nothing in the warehouse behind us. It was the first week of May, and Jonathan and I had just finished purchasing the building. It was a fixer-upper for sure, and as soon as you all left, that's exactly what we started doing. We worked very hard. A lot of local businesses and contractors worked very hard to get us in here by the end of July, and a lot of people didn't think it would happen, but here we are at the end of July, and we're in the door. We still have a little bit to do, as you can see, so expecting company so quickly, you might not want to open up any closets or cabinets falling out on you, but it'll be okay. We promised to have a real open house when the summer heat's left us. We've been building this business for more than a dozen years now. So when President Obama said in Roanoke, if you've got a business, you didn't build that, somebody else made that happen, I was personally insulted. So I'll take a few minutes to tell you just a little bit about how we started this business. In the late 80s, Jonathan and I were working for a family office products company that was purchased by a large corporation that quickly took a nosedive. Jonathan is third generation in this industry, and I've now worked in the business for 25 years nearly. And in 1999, when we realized our jobs were not going to be around much longer, Jonathan said we should go do this on our own. I reluctantly agreed, but I really didn't think we would do that. I thought it was just a phase. He'd grow out of it. He'd put the business plan next to the kiln and the potter's wheel in the shed with the other pile of passing phases. And suddenly a driving need to pay our bills and our mortgage got me on board real quick. Starting a business takes money, and we did not have it. We do have a family rule, though, since the day we were married. Actually, it was more of a Jonathan rule that I tended to break a little bit more at the beginning, and that's that when we purchase something with cash, we only spend dollars. All coins and change. Anything left in the bottom of your car falls out in the dryer, didn't make it back into your wallet. Regardless of where you find it, it goes into a water cooler jug. Every few years, we count that jug. Jonathan's other rule, which I'm not fond of, is that we do it by hand. As an industrial engineer, you think it'd be a little more efficient, but we count it and roll it out. So conveniently, it was full in 2000, and we had just over $3,000. So $3,000 is not enough to start a business. Banks don't love upstarts, and they certainly don't love upstarts with only $3,000. So I'm sure that first banker, to whom we will ever be thankful, I walked in his door to open a business account with an 18-month-old who's now 13, somewhere around here, on one hip and a bag of cash in the other. And I said I wanted to open a business account for us, and not to worry, there was more money, but it was a lot heavier and was going to take more trips. I would bring it in later, and he thought, yeah, this is going to be a little crazy. But he read the plan, and he agreed. He said it was a great plan, but you're going to need more money. So I went to the bank of Mom and Dad. And Mom and Dad had more faith than even maybe we did at the time, and backed our first loan with their assets, and were able to get us that first loan. Only condition was they wanted to be off as soon as we were up and running. So we got that paid off within a few years, and we're on our way. We paid it off probably within the first few years, and during that time we worked hard. We started this business with a full commitment to work hard and to take risks. Through the grace of God along the way, we've been supported by our family, by our friends, and our very hardworking employees. We are a skilled and efficient team of people who are very dedicated to the task. And of course, our vendors and our customers, many of which have been with us since day one. No words can really describe the most stressful and difficult times we've had. When you own a business, you are never off the clock. I'm not complaining, because this is exactly what we expected it to be. We expected it to be really hard a lot of times, and we expected it to be a little fun sometimes. And it is. Every job has advantages and disadvantages. But that's the good news. We have jobs, and so do our employees. Even in this economy, we've maintained and increased salaries, provided benefits, and have never cut back on our staff. I'm speaking to you today because I was so very disappointed to hear the words from President Obama's Roanoke speech. When I heard the "you didn't build that" comment on TV, I thought I surely had to have misheard something. Because certainly, even if he thought it, he wouldn't have said something like that. Then I heard more and I thought, oh, I'm just hearing news clips and sound bites. That can't be what it is. It must be taken out of context. So I went to the White House website for myself, and I downloaded the speech, and I read it in its entirety. Then I was even more disappointed, because actually for me, the whole wasn't, the one phrase wasn't really even as bad as the whole together. I was insulted, not just for me or for Jonathan, but for our hardworking employees as well. They helped build this business too. I encourage you to read the full speech. Others have pointed to particular elements, and I agree with each of them. There's another point that struck me. President Obama doesn't view me or Jonathan as an American worker. We work, and we work hard. We unload trucks, we assemble furniture, we prepare budgets, we find financing, we look for resources. And we do a long list of things while we work, never off the clock. He seems to regard business owners as people who are takers, whose success and accomplishments are purely a result of the government, which even further minimizes the efforts of our staff. The government can only spend what each of us and our businesses pay into it. I know who built this business. It was Jonathan's entrepreneurial twinge that spurred a commitment in me that led to a long list of other people who became a part of the team along the way. President Obama is wrong. Americans do build their own business. We deserve a president who believes that as well, who's not too busy to find ways to promote that, and that's why I'm supporting Mitt Romney. As you know, it's been a while since the president has met with his Jobs Council, so obviously he has a lot on his plate, and I'd like for him to come spend some time with us. So I'll extend an invitation to him and his Jobs Council to meet here, because we have plenty of room now. Our conference room can seat 20 people. We can come right on in and meet with your businesses and ours so that we can understand together exactly what it takes to spur this economy. I think it would be helpful for him to hear about the struggles of real-life business owners and what we face in building these businesses. One thing we want to make clear is that we built this business and we made this happen. Thanks for being here. With that, I'll open up for questions and hang out for a while, have cookies and have a cup of coffee, take a look around. Thank you all.
Well, I hope you can tell from the passion and the words of these entrepreneurs that they take great offense to the president coming to Roanoke and tell them that their success, Michael, in building a business with 10,000 retail outlets for his product around the world, and Melissa, this great location with 19 employees, 19 families being taken care of, that somehow it's not because of their hard work and industriousness that somebody else made it happen, namely, I guess, the government. That's just flat wrong. We're fortunate to have a 5.7% unemployment rate in Virginia, but I can tell you, if we didn't have President Obama and his administration calling the shots and doing what they do to American entrepreneurs, if we had Mitt Romney as president, we'd be in a lot better shape. Our idea is that government should create a positive business environment and then stay out of the way. This president has created a poor business environment and then meddled continuously. It's just the opposite of what we need to be able to do. So, Melissa, I hope the president will take you up on that invitation. I'm sure we'll be following up with him pretty quickly. I guess when you do 100 fundraisers in the last 6 months, but you won't meet with your Jobs Council in 6 months, you clearly got your priorities out of whack, and that's why America is in the trouble we're in. We need a president that'll get us out of debt and back to work, and that's Mitt Romney. So, we'll be glad to take any questions on this subject for me or the business leaders behind me, if you have them.
Governor, yes, I guess there does seem to be some sense of disagreement over what exactly President Obama meant. You all have one interpretation, his administration has countered that with another. You have independent fact-checking groups like PolitiFact that are saying that this line of attack is misleading. I guess, how do you defend the fact that this is not kind of political opportunism, that in fact this is literally what the president meant when he was in Virginia?
Well, it's not out of context, it's out of touch. That's what's wrong with his comment. And it's not just his words, it's the repeated policies. I mean, a week before he says, hey, you all in the private sector are doing just fine. We'll tell that to the 25 million people that are still looking for a job. They're not doing fine. Now, tell that to the small business people in Virginia and the energy industry in Virginia that constantly get attacked by the EPA and the NLRB and others with more regulations and more bureaucratic stumbling blocks to business growing. It's not the words as much as it is the policies. We've seen it for 3.5 years. It's why we have an 8.2% unemployment rate chronically for 41 months. That's the problem. It's the policies and the words. I mean, President Obama says it because he thinks he really believes that. That somehow, if you're successful in America, if you've achieved the American dream, if you've done what these folks have done, you've worked hard, you've dreamt big, you've pursued opportunities, and then you get the rewards, that somehow that entitles you to have to pay more taxes. And that's the policies he set forth in the last couple of weeks. So it's not, you heard Melissa saying exactly right. That quote was bad enough. Then she went back and read the rest of the speech and really was upset because the whole context of it is one that shows he and the administration just don't get it. when it comes to what makes America great, what creates opportunity for the American dream. It's a government that will create a good environment and then lets the hardworking people of America create wealth and opportunity, invent things, employ people. That's what it's all about. That's exactly the opposite of what it said. Somehow, somebody else gets the credit if you're successful in America. It's just the opposite of what our founders planted on this soil 236 years ago, being a land of opportunity. Do you all want to comment on that?
You're right for me. Reading the entire speech was something that I decided to do on my own, and I fully was more concerned when I read it entirely than I was with the sound bites. I do think that the policies and the previous words and other occasions just created an even fuller, more accurate picture for me of what the president really believes. And I don't believe he really understands where I'm coming from. I don't believe he speaks to me or to our businesses and the average worker in that segment.
And I agree with that. I think the words were just his statements, but they were fully supported by the actions he's taken since he's become president. And his anti-business, anti-jobs approach that he's had has shown through. And he's done that in favor of his capital cronyism, supporting big labor, supporting extreme environmental policies, and he's basically thrown jobs under the bus. So it's not just statements in Roanoke. It's been 3 years for me of being concerned about what he's going to do next and how it's going to impact my business.
I guess I would add to that, I wanted to find that I was wrong, that I was mistaken, and that's why I read the whole piece. I want a president, whoever that president is, I want him to be a president who understands these points. And I was hoping to find myself proven wrong. There was just a soundbite, but that's not what we found.
Mike?
I just want to follow up. 4 sentences after the one that's been singled out here. He said, the point is that when we succeed because of our individual initiative, but also because we do things together. They're saying that that's the underlying message of the speech. Do you disagree with that statement?
Sure, I disagree with you. Again, it's not just the words, Mike. I think you have to look behind the words and see what has this president actually done. I would suggest you talk to leaders of the Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the National Federation of Independent Business, and entrepreneurs around Virginia like Melissa and Mike. And they will tell you that the hostility to business that's come out of this administration over the last 3.5 years absolutely reflects a belief that somehow business people that work hard up at midnight unloading their trucks and everything like that, here late at night making sure their office is ready, but somehow that's not what's responsible for success. It's a very different view, I guess, of what creates the American dream. Somehow it's due to somebody else and government. So to me, that's the heart and soul of the message. You look at those 3 sentences, you look at the policies, and it's bad. You look at what the chairman of Coca-Cola just said a few months ago. He said it's easier to do business in China than it is today in the United States of America. That's hard to believe. But it is reflective, I think, of some of the hostile policies that this administration has created. If you talk to anyone in the energy industry in Virginia, Mike, and you got a bunch of them in your backyard in Roanoke and Southwest, and ask them about how difficult it's been in the natural gas and coal business over the last 3 years with the EPA and others, I think you will see that the policies absolutely support the words that this president spoke in Roanoke. Any other questions?
Right.
Go ahead. Yeah, Brian, go ahead.
Governor, you're going to go to Iowa tomorrow for the campaign. You're obviously
How'd you know that?
It's gotten out there. You're
Is
obviously
it too late to run?
Well, that's what I was going to ask. It's not too late for you to run, as a matter of fact. Are you being
The cows
vetted?
in Iowa look really nice this time of year.
Are you being vetted by the Romney campaign to be considered as his vice president? Have you had any conversations with the campaign at all?
You know, you've been trying so hard for a
No,
year.
I'm going to break the story if it kills me, Governor.
You know, I'd much rather talk about jobs. That's just a subject I'm not going to be talking about. But thanks for asking.
I'm going to follow up on that, though. You are going to Iowa later
Yeah.
in the week. How do you defend criticisms that this is not on behalf of the RGA, it's not on behalf of the Commonwealth of Virginia, you're going to stump for candidate Romney?
Sure am.
Do you think it's unprecedented in that office, in the governor's office of Virginia, but it has garnered some heat from time to time? I guess, how do you respond to that?
I'm stumping for them all over Virginia. Because I believe if our country is going to get back to work and out of debt, we need a new president for all the reasons that you've just heard. So my priority, obviously, is helping Mitt Romney win in Virginia. This is going to be a very competitive race here in our state. I am also doing some work for the RGA as chairman this year, helping Republican governors win around the country, because even with President Romney, you got to have CEOs of the states that understand business and the American dream as well. But no, I've told Governor Romney anything that I can do to help him win in Virginia or any other state, I'm glad to do. So they asked me to go to Iowa, and I'll be there with my friend Bobby Jindal of Louisiana, and we're going to talk to the people of Iowa about what's important for the country when it comes to getting us back on track. So I'm glad to be there for the governor. I'll be up at this, down and back in a day. But I'll be working night shift. I'll put in my 8 hours tomorrow night. So. Anything else on jobs? All right, thank you all for coming, and Melissa, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being here.